Welcome back, everyone. This time we're going to take a look at El Grande, an award-winning zone control strategy game designed by Wolfgang Kramer and Richard Ulrich, and published by Hans im Glück. It originally was released in 1995, and even now has a decent following and a competitive scene. If you're looking to get into this game themed after 15th century Spain, then you've come to the right video. I'm Matt, and you're watching The Cardboard Stacker. You're watching a video rulebook, your guide to the rules of the game. This video is divided into chapters. Scroll across that scrubber bar so you can jump right on the section you want to hear more about. You can also find that list of chapters below. And if you like how we discuss games, please share your comments, give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps us grow our channel so we can continue making content for you. Thank you so much for your support. Your objective in El Grande is to score points for the regions where you've deployed more Caballeros than your opponents. This sometimes includes the Castillo too. Players accomplish this by using a combination of actions and game mechanics to deploy their Caballeros into the regions of Spain. And the player with the most points at the end of the game is the winner and is dubbed El Grande. For the purposes of this video, we will be discussing the rules and setup for a 4-player game. After this video, check your rulebook for modifications to gameplay for games with 2 or 3 players. First, place the board in the center where everyone can easily reach, then set the Castillo on the large island off the coast of Valencia and Granada. Next, prepare the action cards. Sort the action cards into separate decks according to the number of Meeples on the backside. There should be 4 separate decks, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and only 1 card with the 5 Caballeros, the King's card. Arrange these action cards next to the game board where they can be visible to everyone. You can also place the mobile scoreboards near these action cards, in case an action card effect requires them. Now, each player needs a secret disc, and a tuck box of game materials in a color of their choice. These tuck boxes should have 13 power cards, 30 Caballeros Meeples, 1 Grande Meeple, and 1 score marker. Then place all player score markers on 0 at the point tracker. Any extra tuck boxes of player materials can be placed back into the game box. Then, shuffle the 9 region cards. Draw a region card and place the king token on the corresponding region. Then deal 1 region card to each player. The players will now take their Grande and 2 Caballeros into the region designated by the region card that they were dealt. Each player also designates an area in their space to be their court, and places 7 of their Caballeros here. Everyone places the rest of their Caballeros next to the game board in a designated area called the province, which acts as a general supply. Place the round markers on 1. And finally, the first player receives the start player marker and the game begins. El Grande is played in rounds. In most rounds, players take turns drafting action cards to use effects and deploy Caballeros to maximize their scoring potential. There will be scoring rounds throughout the game where players can advance along the scoring track. At the end of the third and final scoring round, the player with the most points wins. Let's take a look at the game board. As you can see, it has several features. The main part of the board is the map of Spain divided into 9 regions that each has a scoring board and is labeled with its name. A special area off the mainland houses the Castillo. While we can also see Portugal and France, they are not part of the game and are thus grayed out. In Portugal, we can see the round tracker and the scoring overview tool. Lastly, the score tracker wraps around the perimeter of the board. Each round is divided into 4 different phases. The 4 main phases are reveal action cards, play power cards, players' turns, and end of round. The most important rule to remember is that while the king may be moved by the king's card, the region that the king occupies can never be changed as long as the king is in it. No Caballeros, Grandes, or scoring tiles can be placed or taken from this area. There are no exceptions to this rule by any other game mechanic or effect. In the first phase, action cards are revealed. Turn over the first card in each stack, and flip the king's card face up. Next, in the second phase, the first player secretly chooses a power card and places it in front of them face up. The following players in clockwise order choose a power card from their hand, but can only play a card that doesn't share the same value of another power card that was already played in the current round. There are 2 features on every power card, a numeral and Caballero symbols. The numeral determines the turn order for drafting action cards. and the number of Caballero symbols tells how many Caballeros of their color a player may take from the province into their court. Choosing the right power card is important. The higher the numeral allows a player to choose an action card before other players, but they recruit fewer to no Caballeros into their court. A lower number power card, in contrast, does give a player more Caballeros to be readily placed into the board, but selecting last in the draft means that they will have a small selection of action cards to choose from. The third phase is when players get to take their turn to recruit Caballeros and use their action card effects. The turn order is again determined by the values of the power cards played. The player that played the highest power card goes first, then the next highest, and so on. There are two steps that players take during their turn. The first step is recruiting Caballeros from the province to the court. The number of Caballeros taken is determined by how many Caballero symbols are shown on the power card that the player played this turn. In the event the province has run out of Caballeros of that player's color, then they may use Caballeros that are already placed on the map. Secondly, players choose a face-up action card to take and use. Each action card has two parts, which can be resolved in either order. The main part of an action card is the card's special action. These actions are varied. Some move pieces on the board, others immediately score specific regions. As an option, the player does not have to use the action effect on the card. The bottom section of the card shows Caballero symbols. The amount of symbols here tells the player the maximum amount of Caballeros a player can distribute from their court to regions on the map. Caballeros can only be placed in regions that share a border with the region that is occupied by the king. Remember, players cannot deploy Caballeros to the region where the king is, for it is taboo. A player may also store any number of these Caballeros in the Castillo. Anytime a player wishes to do so, must announce to the opponents how many Caballeros are being added. Until opened, players may not see the contents of the Castillo. In a situation where there are no Caballeros of their color in the province and their court, a player may resolve their action card by repositioning their Caballeros on the map to other regions. Action cards have some terms that we will clarify here. If an action card will allow a player to move Caballeros, they may do so only with pieces on the map, not from the Castillo, not the court, not the province, and not the king's region. Players can redistribute the chosen Caballeros to any region the king is absent from, not just the ones neighboring the king. If an action card forces a player to send Caballeros back to the province, they may take as many as they can from the specified region or court, up to the number indicated on the action. Caballeros in the king's region and the Castillo cannot be moved by this effect. The king's card is always available each round for one player to use. It allows a player to move the king to any other region and deploys 5 Caballeros from their court. All players take their turns this way. Once the last player finishes resolving an action card, the end of round phase begins. Discard all used and remaining action cards into a discard pile next to the remaining action cards. The king's card returns to its own space. The player who played the lowest power card gets the first player marker for the next round. Players place their used power cards in a personal discard pile in their player area. Finally, move the round marker to the next round. Before we get to the end, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you found this video helpful. Immediately after rounds 3, 6, and 9, there is a general scoring round as shown when the round marker lands on a lily icon. There are a few things to remember about scoring. First, anytime a player scores points, they can advance that many spaces on the point tracker. Use the scoring overview to score the regions in order to keep track of the steps. When scoring for either the Castillo or regions, players look at the scoreboard for that area. The player with the most Caballeros is rewarded with the highest number of points. The next player will get the second most, and the same with the third. If there's a tie, all players will score the next lowest position on the scoreboard. Use the scoring overview that is next to the round progress meter. To start with, all players secretly choose a region on their secret disc. Then, the Castillo's gate is opened, spilling out all of the Caballeros. Then, the Castillo is scored. The player that had the most Caballeros in the Castillo wins 5 points, the next most earns 3 points, and the third most earns 1 point. If there is a tie, again, all players will score the next lowest position on the scoreboard. For the Castillo, green has the most, orange and red are tied for second, and blue is last. Green is awarded 5 points. Orange and red don't get 3 points, but instead receive 1 point each. Blue, who placed last, does not get points. Players now reveal the region they picked on their secret disc. and move any of the Caballeros that came from the Castillo into the region there. Remember, players cannot place Caballeros in the region that has the King's token. If they choose the King's region, then the Caballeros are returned to their player's court instead. Now that the Castillo is resolved, use the scoring overview again to score the regions in order, starting with Galicia. The Galicia region awards blue with 4 points. Since green and red are tied for second place, they score for third. However, the third place doesn't award points, so both green and red receive 0 points. And since third place has already been accounted for, orange isn't considered for any points. There are some extra points to award to players when certain conditions are met. The King's bonus of 2 additional points is awarded to the player with the most Caballeros in the King's region. The Grande bonus awards players with 2 points if they own the majority of Caballeros in the same region that holds their Grande. The King's bonus and the Grande bonus are not rewarded when there is a tie. When the last region is scored, normal gameplay resumes with the next round. It should be also noted that some action cards allow players to score regions. For the regions indicated on the card, follow the scoring rules immediately when the effect is activated. Even the King and Grande bonuses apply here. After the third and final phase of scoring, the game ends and the player with the most points is the winner and is dubbed El Grande. If there is a tie, the players that have the same highest amount of points can share the victory. This concludes our How to Play video on El Grande. For more information about this game, please visit hansimglück.de. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope this video was helpful. Be sure to check out the channel for other videos and share feedback in the comment section below. And as always, remember to keep on stacking games.